Team Trump says evidence show more than double the vote margin in swing states is from illegal ballots, enough, they argue, to overturn the election. Speaking of which, in Michigan, you might know that there are 2 Wayne County, Michigan Board of Canvassers who are Republican. And initially, they did not certify the election. They felt there were too many questions. Then they claimed they were pressured, had threats, and they changed their mind and certified the election. They've now changed their mind again and have rescinded their certification. And they were on Laura Ingram's show explaining why.
2 GOP members of the Wayne County, Michigan Board of Canvassers say they were bullied and intimidated into voting to certify the county's election results for Joe Biden there. Now, their initial concern was the fact that voting totals couldn't be reconciled in 70% of absentee counting precincts in Detroit. Now, Democrats viciously attacked and threatened the GOP canvassers over their concerns, even calling them racist. Well, today, despite all of that intimidation, Monica Palmer and Bill Hartman rescinded their votes, and they joined the Ingram Angle exclusively. Thank you both for being here and having the courage to speak out. I want all our viewers to see how you both were treated during this process. Watch.
Stink, the stain of racism that you, William Hartman, and Monica Palmer have just covered yourself in is going to follow you throughout history. Your grandchildren are going to think of you like Bull Connor or George Wallace. And Lord knows, when you go to meet your maker, your soul is going to be very, very warm.
So these 2 Wayne County Republicans were accused of being racist, being compared to Bull Connor, who, by the way, was a Democrat, for initially refusing to certify the election.
He's unhinged. Monica, this is just the kind of harassment that you faced after your initial vote. He's a fairly prominent business person. What have you experienced since?
It's continued. He's used his social media platform to repeatedly dox me, post my phone number, my home address, my email address, and encourage people to stop by my house and share their anger with me.
Are you kidding me? So this man with all of his money and all of his business contacts and all of his social media decides to pick on you in what social media has said is you can't do, and to frankly put your life in danger. That's what he's doing. And Bill, have any of your critics looked into any of your concerns over the vote totals in Detroit that were not, in your view, adding up?
Yes, they have. We've had some other people come along and look into those things. And normally when we get, when we're at the meeting, we get what's called an over-under report. And we didn't get that report this year or this time. Instead, we were given it orally and we had to record everything by hand.
Well, the Washington Post is reporting tonight that one of the 2 Republican members of the 4-member Michigan canvassing board, Norman Schinkel, said that he's leaning toward asking for a delay in the certification for the state vote, calling for an audit. Now, the board is scheduled to vote, I guess, Monday, guys, so I do think with all the potential problems, he said, if any of them are true, an audit is appropriate. Monica, tell us how important that news is, breaking news tonight, about accountability and transparency. It's starting to resonate with other officials in Michigan, it looks like.
Yeah, it's absolutely needed. The purpose of the canvass is to make sure every legal vote is counted and tallied right, that you have complete and accurate documentation. And when you have a precinct that's unbalanced without an explanation, that doesn't satisfy the requirement. And that is why we initially voted no for certification. After some deliberation with Vice Chair Kinlock, he offered an audit for our unbalanced precincts. An audit, comprehensive, should be able to dig down and find the explanation of why the number of voters doesn't match the number of ballots cast. So I'm excited to see that there's a spread for this desire to see the rules followed consistently across the state.
So the number of ballots don't equal the number of votes cast when you say out of balance. Is that correct? Am I stating it correctly, Bill?
Yes, it is. That's what I mean by the over-under report. We want everything to balance, like your checkbook balances to your bank account, and then you can, if everything balances, then you can recount it. But if it doesn't balance, then you cannot recount it. And that's our goal, is to try and get everything in balance.
Well, again, Monica, you wrote in your affidavit that after the vote, public comment period began, and dozens of people made personal remarks against you and Bill. The comments made these accusations of racism, threatened you and your members of your family. How are you and your family holding up?
Now, that's Michigan. They're also making the argument, Giuliani is, that there are indications in Georgia, Pennsylvania, in addition to Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona, quote, we more than double the number of votes needed to overturn the election in terms of provable illegal ballots. I think the logical conclusion, he says, is that this is a common plan, a common scheme that comes directly from the Democrat Party and comes from the candidate, end of quote. Now, observers were allegedly stopped from watching mail-in ballots several places. Giuliani said that the ballots were open without observers being there. They're arguing, of course, in Pennsylvania that there was a violation of the 14th Amendment because of the way the deadline was extended, inconsistent against what the politicians wanted. The judges just did it arbitrarily. Voters arrived at the polls to discover that some people had voted for them, Giuliani said. Officials were told to overlook things like signatures not matching. Ballots cast for Joe Biden and no other candidate were allegedly run several times through the machines. Absentee ballots were accepted in Wisconsin, he said, without being applied for first. There were these overvotes. You heard what that was. Some precincts allegedly recording more voters than residents. Voting machines and the software problems. Allegedly, the softwares were capable of being tampered with. And there were statistical anomalies, mathematical anomalies, huge batches of votes for Biden that could not be explained, Giuliani said, except via manipulation. Now, for the cases that have been filed, a lot of them have been tossed out, and Giuliani said these were a lot of cases that were filed by other people, not by us. So the lawsuits continue. And when we come back, I want to remind you of when Trump back in May disagreed with Dr. Fauci about school closings, and he got hammered. Trump rebuked him when he said he was concerned about reopening schools, and Trump said that's not an acceptable answer. Got hammered. Now it looks like, once again, Trump is right. Is the New York Times going to apologize? Please. I'm Larry Elder.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. Republicans should be on to Georgia. Bill Belichick, coach of the New England Patriots, had a line from his most famous news conference ever. After a 41-14 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in 2014, Belichick answered question after question with, "We're on to Cincinnati." After Joe Biden's victory was declared by media organizations on Saturday, the mantra of Republicans for the next 2 months should be, "We are on to Georgia." Because on January 5, Georgians will decide 2 United States Senate seats in runoff elections. The course of the nation over the next 2 years is in the balance. If Republican Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler win, Americans will have divided government and compromise. If left-wing, indeed radical Democratic challengers John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock win, the nation will see Supreme Court packing, cuts in the military spending, and socialized medicine. If Trump wants a comeback in 2024, it starts in the Peach State on January 5. We're on to Georgia.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
I just want you to know this may disturb some of you, and I have to take that risk to be honest at all times. There were two, right now there are two major possibilities: that Joe Biden won the election honestly or that he won it dishonestly. And I'm not saying that Joe Biden was involved in the dishonesty if that was the case. I'm just making, I mean, there is a third option, and that is the that if he won it dishonestly, then President Trump won it honestly. I understand that. That's a very difficult hurdle to prove. I think you have to realize that. He has every right to try it, as Alan Dershowitz, who I assume voted for Biden, has just made clear in a column. The president has every right to try, and there does seem to be a cheating. But I would pose this question, since I don't want any conservatives to make up scenarios that are not true. That would bother me even more than if the left lied, because if my side lied, then we really have little, if any, hope for the society. So it gives you an idea of how committed I am to the truth.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Let's go to a true expert in the field. His friends call him Fredo, and he's not happy with another medical professional called Dr. Atlas. And the question at hand is Thanksgiving. This is Cut 7. I think Fredo's taken too many steroids. Play Cut.
What the hell are you doing here? Yeah, it could be their last Thanksgiving. If you expose them to people who aren't wearing masks, who aren't socially distancing, and haven't been doing so, and haven't gotten tested, because they somehow think they don't want to get in on the con of COVID. You know, you want to hide on state news, you do it. But someday, you're going to have to deal with real questions. And either you're going to come on a show or you're going to do it, but you know what? We may go back to old school. And maybe the questions will come find you. Maybe when you're living your life nice and easy, because you don't have the concerns that these same people that you're telling to rise up, that they have. Maybe the questions will come and find you, because you have to answer for that kind of guidance, let alone it's a doctor.
Let me get this straight. Fredo Cuomo is... I can't say the P word, can I? Can I say the P word?
Larry, this is Kurt D. from Minnesota. I've called before. I really appreciate your show. Thanks for speaking the truth, regardless of the odds against it. And they are against it. This is the most colossal travesty we've experienced in this republic since the founding. I'm praying that the legal challenge will work, and that we'll have a Congress electing a president with one vote, state by state. God bless you and all who are out there speaking the truth. Keep exposing the truth, like Hammer, Scorecard, Dominion, and all these things that hopefully greater detail will be coming out very shortly.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243, Larry Elder, ReliefFactor.com studio. By the way, executives from the controversial software that's been used, they were supposed to testify, and all of a sudden they lawyered up, and they're not going to testify. I'll tell you more about that in just a second, Dominion. Now, as we get ready to head into the weekend, I want to thank everybody who has donated to my Angel Tree campaign, which we do every year this time of the year, to make Christmas brighter for some of the 2.7 million children here in America with a mom or a dad, or sadly sometimes even both, in prison. Now, one of those incarcerated moms, a woman named Michelle, is helping other prisoners reach out through our friends at Prison Fellowship. But Michelle says her first experience meeting with other female inmates, well, it wasn't easy.
Scary women I would have been frightened of, were now sitting across from me in this little tiny room where our knees are actually almost touching, and I'm helping them fill out an application for their children for Angel Tree. Angel Tree brought in hope, a little ray of light to a very, very dark place, and allowed us moms to be able to reach outside the prison walls to our families and let our children know that they weren't forgotten and that we were still thinking about them. Angel Tree just made a huge difference in my life.
Now, it all begins with a donation to our Angel Tree campaign. So just go to my website, larryelder.com, click on the Angel Tree banner, or you can phone in your donation by calling my special number, 888-206-2763. That's 888-206-2763. You can literally change a child's life with your donation. Plus, every Angel Tree family is given an access to a free, easy-to-read copy of the Bible in English or in Spanish. Please go to my website, larryelder.com, click on the Angel Tree banner, and thank you for joining my campaign to help Prison Fellowship. Michigan leader says Detroit voting irregularities are reprehensible, and that they lack transparency. His name is Eric Nesbitt. He's a Republican leader of the Michigan GOP-led Senate, and he's calling the actions of the Detroit Voting Center reprehensible, saying there were 3-1 Democrats versus Republicans allowed to watch the polls. His wife was at the center and observed what was going on. He said whenever they removed a Republican attorney or Republican poll observer, the election workers were cheering. They were being kicked out of the room for things like adjusting their face mask or accidentally brushing up against some other folks. End of quote. He said, my colleagues and I are calling for a full audit of the process to try and figure out what actually went wrong. End of quote. Giuliani also talked about the coverage of the voter fraud.
Where there was an honest Democrat who said they were cheating. And we'll show you her affidavit, because I know you keep reporting falsely that we have no evidence, that we have no specific acts of fraud. That's because the coverage of this has been almost as dishonest as the scheme itself. The American people are entitled to know this. You don't have a right to keep it from them. You don't have a right to lie about it. And you are. I mean, you don't report to them that a citizen of this country, a very fine woman, who is willing to allow me to give you her name. I can't give you all these affidavits, because if I do, these people will be harassed, they'll be threatened, they may lose their job, they will lose their friends. We've lost lawyers in this case because they've been threatened. We've had lawyers that need protection. What's going on in this country is horrible, and the censorship that you're imposing is making it worse.
Sidney Powell, also part of the Team Trump, talks about how many people were involved, paid possibly to rig the system.
If I may speak for just a minute, in terms of the level of corruption we are looking at here, we have no idea how many Republican or Democratic candidates in any state across the country paid to have the system rigged to work for them. These people didn't do this just to take control. They make one heck of a lot of money off of it. Think about the global interests behind your own news organizations. Think about the pressure being brought to bear from the social media companies to shut down free speech on any challenge to the election. This is a massive, well-funded, coordinated effort to deprive we the people of the United States of our most fundamental right under the Constitution to preserve this republic that we all cherish. It is of the greatest concern. It is the 1775 of our generation and beyond.
And Georgia?
So, for example, the recount being done in Georgia will tell us nothing, because these fraudulent ballots will just be counted again because they wouldn't supply the signatures to match the ballots. So it means nothing to have counted these ballots because, for example, in Pennsylvania, where we have probably our most precise evidence, 682,770 of these ballots were cast, put in, and they weren't inspected, which renders them ballots that are null and void, cannot be counted, have to be removed from the vote. Why? For several reasons, not the least of which is that was basically only one of two places in the state where it was done. So in the other parts of the state, there was a legitimate inspection of the ballots. So if you have two different standards in different parts of the state, one favoring one part of the state, the other disfavoring the other part of the state.
Now, several people say that the recount in Georgia is bad. Lynn Wood is an attorney for the Trump campaign. He filed affidavits earlier this week, filing a motion to stop the certification of the results. He said 9 individual sites in the affidavit swore to have seen suspicious mail-in ballots almost uniformly cast for Biden. The ballots were in pristine condition and had no creases on them, which seemed unusual considering mail-in ballots have to be folded to fit into the envelope in which they're mailed. Poll manager with 2 decades of experience wrote in her affidavit, quote, "It was pristine. There was a difference in the texture of paper. It was as if they were intended for absentee use, but had not been used for that purpose. There were no markings on the ballots to show where they had come from or where they had been processed. I observed that the markings for the candidates on these ballots were unusually uniform, perhaps even with ballot marking device. 98% of these votes were cast for Joe Biden," she said. I'm Larry Elder.
You're listening to The Larry Elder Show.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
The situation in each state is a little different. In Arizona, they are simply refusing to have a recount, and that's outrageous. The law says you're only entitled to a mandatory recount if you lost by fewer than 500 votes, and that's designed for dog catcher elections. But for president in a state that casts 3 million votes, you're not going to have a 500 vote margin. In Georgia, they're having a recount, but the inspectors are 40 feet away. There's no way the Republican can see them doing this recount, much less check the ballot.
What is that? What kind of a joke is that? I mean, I don't really even understand.
Democrats being partisan. It's the election.
It's called cheating, Dick. It's called cheating. How do you? How is that possible? How can the lawyers? How can this be possible that they would allow? Well, it's obviously cheating.
I think Trump's people were asleep at the switch and should have been there in these polling places protesting. Certainly the recount. During the recount, they were protesting, but they were not listened to. Also in Georgia, I think I said earlier, but let me repeat, there were 200 people between the ages of 105 and 110 who voted. There were 2,000 people over the age of 100 who were supposed to have voted. And there were 27,000 people over the age of 90, between 90 and 100, who were said to have voted. And I wish everybody health in Georgia, but somehow I don't think all those people actually voted.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
They're not voting for 2 Senate seats in Georgia, although we have 2 extraordinary senators and candidates. They're voting whether or not they want Chuck Schumer to run the Senate. And, Joe Biden takes office, Joe Biden becomes president. It could be the difference between a radical, crazy person running labor, treasury, the Department of Defense, what have you, or someone we just don't agree with. I mean, but isn't, a radical crazy. I think that's part of it. And then the other part of it is particularly in the Loeffler race, but I think in both of them, but Loeffler race more particular is, this gentleman she's running against, every day something new comes out, and I know you've been focused on that somewhat this morning as well, apparently. But the video of him saying you can't serve God in the military is offensive and would come as a tremendous shock to the men and women in uniform and their families, who in fact put their lives on the line so he can have the freedom not just to worship but to say things like that.
Let me play the clip for people who have just turned in. This surfaced yesterday evening by Pastor Warnock in a 2011 sermon delivered, it seems, at the Ebenezer Baptist Church. It could be a different pulpit, but I believe it's the Ebenezer Church. Cut number 4.
America, nobody can serve God and the military. You can't serve God and money. You cannot serve God and mammon at the same time. America America, choose ye this day whom you will serve. Is that newsworthy, Senator Rubio?
Absolutely it is, because he's basically saying, and look, the rhetorical point, the broader point, right, that you can't have two masters is different from saying that you can't serve God and the military.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
Newt Gingrich said that if the absentee ballot requests
Yes, Larry, this is Booker from Texas. I was trying to figure out how come there's no other coverage of the current news program talking about the cheating in the election. The only ones that's showing it is Fox News. I checked all the other channels, and not one of them had it on their thing. That's why people are in the black. They don't get a chance to understand what is happening in this country.
It has been a bad week for the Trump legal team that actually right now is holding a press conference that is so bananas we can't even bring it to you because it's just so full of BS. So it's been a bad week for them, and the week isn't over yet. President Trump added new lawyers to the mix here in the last few days in a last-ditch attempt to boost his flailing legal efforts.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. On this Can You Be Kirk /Phone Number Friday. More on that in due course. By the way, next hour we're going to be speaking with retired Lieutenant Colonel Frances P. Rice. She's written a book called Black History 1619 to 2019, where she says she wants to correct many of the misconceptions about black history. As you know, Obama said that the reason Donald Trump rose to power is because, quote, millions of Americans were spooked by a black man in the White House. We're going to talk to Lieutenant Frances Presley Rice about that assertion next hour, so stick around for that. We're talking about the lawsuits that have been filed against various states alleging impropriety, irregularity, if not outright fraud. Georgia recount witnesses swear that they have seen votes for Trump counted for Biden. Michigan leader says that Detroit voting irregularities were reprehensible and lacked transparency. And as you know, the press conference of the Trump legal team led by Rudy Giuliani was ignored by MSNBC and by CNN, although CNN did in fact send a reporter.
Sir, is it your goal here to pressure officials and lawmakers in these battleground states to block or delay certification so the GOP can pick their own electors? Is that the end game here?
Our goal here is to go around the iron curtain of censorship. That what publication are you with?
CNN.
So
she's with CNN, one of whose hosts just said that the reason we're not showing you the press conference is it's bananas. So if you're not showing it, why would you send somebody to cover a press conference that you think is bananas? So you think it's important enough to cover it, but not important enough to show your viewers. This is stunning, absolutely stunning.
It's to go around the outrageous iron curtain of censorship and get facts to the American people that if you were a fair and honest network, you'd have been reporting for the last 2 weeks. These are facts. These are things that actually happened. These people really wrote these affidavits. These affidavits are really part of the public record. You're concealing them, you're covering them up, and our role here is to do your job because you don't do it.
And to get a quote from my cousin Vinny, pretty impressive.
The direct evidence of the fraud of the people who will testify that in fact that's what happened to them, as well as the 50 to 60 witnesses we have for the way they were treated and not allowed to inspect the ballots. They weren't just not allowed to do it, they were pushed. A few cases they were assaulted. In all cases they were put in a corral so far away probably the closest they got is from here to the back of that room. We could do like a, did you all watch My Cousin Vinny? You know the movie? It's one of my favorite law movies because he comes from Brooklyn. And when the nice lady who said she saw, and then he says to her, how many fingers do I got up? And she says, 3. Well, she was too far away to see it was only 2. These people were further away than my cousin Vinny was from the witness. They couldn't see a thing. Now, I don't know, you're going to tell me that 60 people are lying? They didn't just tell me this. They swore under penalty of perjury, which is something no Democrat's ever done. You don't even ask Biden about this. You don't put him under penalty of perjury. He doesn't even get asked questions about it. He doesn't get asked questions about all the evidence of the crimes that he committed. These people are under penalty of perjury. Their names are on an affidavit. They swear that they weren't allowed to carry out their function as inspectors. And it's not just a technical thing. There's a reason they did it. Why would you not allow?
Now we come back. Dominion planned on attending a hearing with the Pennsylvania legislature. At the last moment, according to the Republicans, they lawyered up and declined to appear. We'll talk about that in just a second. Black Friday, Cyber Monday, one-day only sale. Wouldn't you rather just work for a company who puts you on a pedestal every day? Well, that's what you get with Pure Talk, a veteran-run wireless company that understands what it means to serve. Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile. If you're with them, you're overpaying. Pure and simple. Pure Talk can easily save you over $400 a year. Listen, this is all you need. Unlimited talk, text, and 2 gigs of data, all for just $20 a month. And if you go over data usage, they do not charge you for it. That's why Pure Talk is my wireless provider. Make them your wireless provider as well. Switching to Pure Talk is the easiest decision you're going to make today. You can keep your phone and your number or get great deals on the latest iPhones and Androids. Grab your mobile phone, dial pound 250, and say Larry Elder. When you do, 50% off your first month. Dial pound 250. Say keyword Larry Elder, pound 250, keyword Larry Elder. Pure Talk, simply smarter wireless.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
I take a risk in saying this, but it'll be very hard to be optimistic if the left gets control of the Senate, the House, and the presidency.
Well, they'll have absolute free reign, and also that makes massive changes to the direction of this country and drive us towards socialism and a permanent Democrat majority. You know what they'll be doing, right? Not only is it the Green New Deal, the $15 minimum wage, the gradual takeover of the healthcare system, it's court packing, it's statehood for D.C. and Puerto Rico. I mean, it's everything that we fear could happen. But we have to make sure that conservatives get out there and vote early. If I were a Democrat, I'd say vote often, but we only vote once. But truly, December 14th, we got to.
Why is it advantageous to vote early?
Well, because the other option in some cases is the mail-in ballots. It's Christmas time. It's it's New Year's. People are going to be on vacation, Dennis, and that's my biggest concern.
So it's to ensure that people vote.
Yes.
Okay,
on our
fine.
side,
All right.
I want to make sure. And Dennis, I don't want to get into the whole mail-in ballot thing again, right? And if our side just kind of leans on that and resorts to that, we're just going to have issues yet again. So we got to get our folks out.
All right. So let me address that issue. Are the Republicans doing anything to ensure a fair election?
Well, there's a lot going on the election integrity. Obviously now with the recount and everything that's going on, there's a lot of focus on that. But every day there seems to be more information that's coming out on election integrity, and especially on the mail-in ballot issue.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Do that, and the president himself is convinced that without a question, if we counted the votes accurately, he really did win. And you yourself are convinced of that. I take you very seriously.
Yeah, I'm very totally convinced of it. So here's what we need to do. The president emphasized to me that the power to assign electors, to choose the electors who actually choose the president, is vested in Article 2, Section 1, look it up yourself, of the U.S. Constitution in the state legislatures. And he said that he felt that the key need here was to mobilize the Republican leaders of these states. All of these states that are at issue are controlled by Republican state legislatures for the
Hi, Larry. I'd like to bring up an article today by the Associated Press, Steve Peoples, Dev Reichman, and Zeke Miller, in which they lie to the American people and say there's non-existent voter fraud. You are liars. You are not journalists. You are nothing but a propaganda arm of the Democratic Party. And you're lying to the people day after day after day, and you should be ashamed of yourselves.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. In the third hour, we will be playing Phone and Bro. We'll also be playing Can You Beat Kirk? This is a trivia contest. We have 5 categories this week. They are sports, this week in the news, famous lawyers, movies of the 1990s, which is an audio clue, and vice presidents. So if you think you're strong in sports, this week in the news, famous lawyers, movies of the 1990s, which will be an audio clue, and vice presidents, stick around for the third hour of the show, 888-971-SAGE. More on this in due course. As I mentioned, later on, next hour, I'm going to be speaking with a lieutenant colonel, retired, named Francis Presley Rice. He's written a book on black history called 1619 to 2019, an illustrated and documented African-American history. And I'm going to ask her about the assertion made by former President Barack Obama that the reason Trump rose to power was a reaction to, quote, millions of Americans being spooked by a black man in the White House, close quote. Shelby Steele, the well-known, really, really well-respected writer, commentator, conservative. Here's what he said about what Mr. Obama claimed.
Well, it makes me sad. I've never been a great fan of Mr. Obama, but this is really, really disappointing. This I think makes the point. Obama feels a pressure. Many blacks do. We all do, really. That if you don't really take on a negative attitude toward America, you are somehow inauthentic as a black person. And so we as blacks suffer from what might be called the angst of inauthenticity. And so we do, as what you just mentioned, Obama. We identify with victimization as the deep and profound truth of who we are. I can't imagine a sadder statement. Can you imagine Frederick Douglass, Booker T. Washington, any number of other great leaders saying something like that?
That's Shelby Steele. He's also a senior fellow at the Hoover Institution, along with people like Thomas Sowell. Now, remember that name because that may become relevant later on. Pourquoi? Now, Dominion, the voting system that's under fire, was scheduled to attend a hearing with the Pennsylvania legislature. They backed out. Here's the Republican response.
Thinking Dominion was willing to publicly back up their product, which Pennsylvania taxpayers invested millions to purchase and voters entrusted with their sacred ballots, was truly remarkable. I truly felt Pennsylvanians and the nation could get some answers into the truth of the effectiveness of Dominion voting systems. Unfortunately, last evening, Dominion voting systems lawyered up and backed out of their commitment to the people of Pennsylvania to provide their input in a public format and discuss their voting systems, of which 1.3 Pennsylvanians entrusted. Instead of running towards the light of honesty and integrity, Dominion voting systems retreated to the darkness. Why? Why would a vendor of public goods fear discussing their products sold to the public for the public good? If Dominion's products were successful and operated as they were supposed to, why wouldn't Dominion take the opportunity to publicly review its success?
This is State Representative Republican Seth Grove, Pennsylvania.
How hard is it to say our ballot machines worked exactly as promised and they are 100% accurate? Why, after weeks of accusations, has Dominion Voting Systems not released any analysis of the success of their voting machines to the public in order to stop their accusers in their tracks? They have nothing to hide. Why are they hiding from us? Today, I am saddened to report to the taxpayers of Pennsylvania and the 1.3 million voters who trusted Dominion Voting Systems with their ballots that Dominion Voting Systems has hung you out to dry and slapped you in your faces. Not only are Pennsylvanians more skeptical, but the actions of Dominion Voting Systems last night have led credibility to their accusers' accusations. To date, the Secretary of State has initiated no plans to address any concerns of Pennsylvanians. A concerning number of Pennsylvanians have lost faith in the integrity of our election process. If the elections were conducted above board, the Secretary of State and the Department would be falling over themselves to verify the results and put to rest the mistrust of this election. Trust must be earned. It's up to Dominion Voting Systems to earn the voters' trust. It's up to the Secretary of State to invalidate any rumor or accusation. I would like to call on Representative Dawn Kiefer to review some of the accusations against Dominion Voting Systems that we could have had answers to today, but will continue to process throughout rumor mills across the Commonwealth and across the United States.
Now, we have no idea why they backed out, why they, as this Republican member of the Pennsylvania legislature said, lawyered up. But apparently they did. And he's quite right. Wouldn't you think they'd be eager to let people know that their voting system was not hacked, was not manipulated? This Republican leader said he was impressed that Dominion initially said, sure, we'll come. Team Trump, Sidney Powell.
This is stunning, heartbreaking, infuriating, and the most unpatriotic acts I can even imagine for people in this country to have participated in any way, shape, or form. And I want the American public to know right now that we will not be intimidated. American patriots are fed up with the corruption from the local level to the highest level of our government, and we are going to take this country back. We are not going to be intimidated. We are not going to back down. We are going to clean this mess up now. President Trump won by a landslide. We are going to prove it, and we are going to reclaim the United States of America for the people who vote for freedom.
As mentioned, Georgia recount witnesses swear they have seen votes for Trump counted for Biden. Here's what a Georgia election official said.
Okay, as far as the recount, is this going to be completed by midnight tonight?
Yeah, it's not exactly a recount. I'll be clear, this is a hand audit to verify the outcomes that came out of after Election Day. We are well on track. Our largest counties finished up the first round of the physical recounting of the ballots. Now we're doing the quality control to make sure that we, everything lines up. There wasn't any data entry errors. Nobody transposed numbers. They got all the batches counted. And through this process, we already found that there was a little over 5,000 ballots that were just not uploaded properly into our system.
Now, Pete and Seth Talbot, the father-son owners of Relief Factor, by the way, I'm going to be seeing them this weekend. They believe our bodies are designed to heal. And the doctors who formulated Relief Factor for them selected the 4 best ingredients, 100% drug-free ingredients, each of which helps your body deal with inflammation from a different metabolic pathway. So if you have back, shoulder, neck, hip, knee, or foot pain, whether from exercise or just everyday living, getting older, try the 3-week Quick Start. Discounted to only $19.95. Over 70% of the people who order it go on to order more. I think it'll give your body what it needs to heal itself. Try it. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com, or call 800-500-8384, 800-500-8384.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
The situation in each state is a little different. In Arizona, they are simply refusing to have a recount, and that's outrageous. The law says you're only entitled to a mandatory recount if you lost by fewer than 500 votes. And that's designed for dog catcher elections. But for president in a state that casts 3 million votes, you're not going to have a 500 vote margin. In Georgia, they're having a recount, but the inspectors are 40 feet away. There's no way the Republican can see them doing this recount, much less check the ballot.
What is that? What kind of a joke is that? I mean, I don't really even understand.
Democrats being partisan. It's the election.
It's called cheating, Dick. It's called cheating. How do you? How is that possible? How can the lawyers? How can this be possible that they would allow? Well, obviously cheating.
I think Trump's people were asleep at the switch and should have been there in these polling places protesting. Certainly the recount. During the recount, they were protesting, but they were not listened to. Also in Georgia, I think I said earlier, but let me repeat, there were 200 people between the ages of 105 and 110 who voted. There were 2,000 people over the age of 100 who were supposed to have voted. And there were 27,000 people over the age of 90, between 90 and 100, who were said to have voted. And I wish everybody health in Georgia, but somehow I don't think all those people actually voted.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
They're not voting for 2 Senate seats in Georgia, although we have 2 extraordinary senators and candidates. They're voting.
Hey, Larry, it's Slow from the Pedro. Just following up, I had left you a message a week ago probably regarding holding vigils, elected officials' houses around the country. And I think we saw why it's so important to give these people the moral support. In Michigan, you had guys stand up and say, we're not certifying this, and then face a severe backlash that they folded. That's why we need to hold the vigils for these people so they have the moral support to do what we want, because they're under a lot of pressure to let it slide by. Let me know.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243, Larry Elder, ReliefFactor.com studio. The Georgia recount has shown some votes switched in favor of Donald Trump, not enough to change the outcome. But Giuliani says that the recount means nothing because fraudulent ballots were just counted again.
So, for example, the recount being done in Georgia will tell us nothing, because these fraudulent ballots will just be counted again because they wouldn't supply the signatures to match the ballots. So it means nothing to have counted these ballots because, for example, in Pennsylvania, where we have probably our most precise evidence, 682,770 of these ballots were cast, put in, and they weren't inspected, which renders them ballots that are null and void, cannot be counted, have to be removed from the vote. Why? For several reasons, not the least of which is that was basically only one of 2 places in the state where it was done. So in the other parts of the state, there was a legitimate inspection of the ballots. So if you have 2 different standards in different parts of the state, one favoring one part of the state, the other disfavoring the other part of the state.
Now, the recount officially ended at the end of the day last night. Lynn Wood, an attorney for the Trump campaign, however, has filed affidavits with a federal court in Georgia as part of an emergency motion to stop the certification of the results. 9 individual sites in the affidavit swore to have seen suspicious mail-in ballots, almost all cast for Joe Biden. A recount observer in Henry County testified, quote, based on my observations, I believe that additional absentee ballots were cast for Donald Trump but counted for Joe Biden. I further believe there was widespread fraud favoring Joe Biden, close quote. Another who monitored the recount in Cobb County, Concetta Johnson, she said she was watching workers, quote, putting the already separated paper ballots in a no vote and Jorgensen tray, removing them and putting them in the Biden tray. End of quote. Others say they also saw these kinds of things. So Giuliani believes that the recount doesn't mean anything because the ballots were fraudulently cast in the first place. All of that and more on this Phone a Bro Can You Beat Kirk Friday. More on that in due course. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Do not leave town.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. Republicans should be on to Georgia. Bill Belichick, coach of the New England Patriots, had a line from his most famous news conference ever. After a 41-14 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in 2014, Belichick answered question after question with, "We're on to Cincinnati." After Joe Biden's victory was declared by media organizations on Saturday, the mantra of Republicans for the next 2 months should be, "We are on to Georgia." Because on January 5, Georgians will decide 2 United States Senate seats in runoff elections. The course of the nation over the next 2 years is in the balance. If Republican Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler win, Americans will have divided government and compromise. If left-wing, indeed radical Democratic challengers John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock win, the nation will see Supreme Court packing, cuts in the military spending, and socialized medicine. If Trump wants a comeback in 2024, it starts in the Peach State on January 5. We're on to Georgia.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Let's go to a true expert in the field. His friends call him Fredo, and he's not happy with another medical professional called Dr. Atlas. And the question at hand is Thanksgiving. This is cut 7. I think Fredo's taken too many steroids. Play cut.
What the hell are you doing here? Yeah, it could be their last Thanksgiving. If you expose them to people who aren't wearing masks, who aren't socially distancing, and haven't been doing so, and haven't gotten tested, because they somehow think they don't want to get in on the con of COVID. You know, you want to hide.